Things are going to start to go a little crazy over there in Riverdale as vampirism takes the town by storm. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is an iRate review, a show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something you should go back to the comic book shop for or not. Make sure you subscribe to get more of these every single week. The comic that I want to talk about right now is Vampironica #1, written by Greg Smallwood, with art by Greg Smallwood, and I think Meg Smallwood's on it as well. And this is my first real foray into Archie Comics, and it is specifically Archie horror because I love Greg Smallwood's art. I totally spaced on this one when I was doing my preview picks. Otherwise, I would have definitely told you guys to take a look simply because of the art style itself. But the whole concept of Archie horror and Veronica becoming a vampire and what that's going to mean to the rest of Riverdale is something that I am super interested in. So let's dive in and see whether it sucks or not. So I know this is unexpected, but let's talk about Archie Comics. So Archie Comics is something that I have never really dove into. I used to pick them up at the drugstore when I was a kid, but what we're talking about now is the rebirth, the rejuvenated Archie Comics that started with the relaunch of Archie by Mark Waid and, Veronica Fish and all those guys back in 2015. And what we've got now is Vampironica. So as part of the Archie horror imprint that's coming out, we have Greg Smallwood with Meg Smallwood doing the writing and art on this title, and it starts off in a pretty standard way. This is a book that's not necessarily going to be sophisticated. It's not going to offer a lot of very deep terms and very serious things that you need to think about. It's more of like, this is going to be entertainment in a very kind of campy horror way, and I'm really excited for that. So we open up at Cheryl Blossom's party. You see some of these people from the Riverdale High School that are currently there, and then all of a sudden some sort of vampiric entity bounces out of the night and is starting to attack Cheryl, and then Veronica Lodge, dressed in leather, comes over and smashes it across the face. It's more than just one, though. There's another one that lunges out of the crowd as she's kind of staking and slashing this other one across the throat. They dive into the pool, and all of a sudden blood just seems to boil out of the entire thing. And then she emerges, red in her eyes, fangs in her mouth, and she's a vampire that's hunting vampires. And immediately I'm just like, this is super cool and it's super fun. I'm really excited to see where this one goes, because even though Cheryl's just standing there like, Veronica? And she's like, hey Cheryl, cool party. We jump back in time, 3 days ago, where she's having her cheerleading practice. She's dealing with Archie. She goes over to try and make plans with him, but Archie's already made plans with Betty. So, Betty and Archie are going to go out, and she grabs Reggie, and it's just that very traditional Archie high school kind of vibe that goes along, where Veronica and Betty are kind of bouncing around between people, and they're still vying for the love or the attention of Archie. So while Reggie is more than happy to take Veronica out, she is obviously treating him like the second or third or fourth option, the person that's available at this point in time. And we head back to her house, and we see the texting, so it's a very modern update to that. While she is going to have, Reggie come over and take her out for a night on the town, she, little kiss on the fingertips and then puts it on Archie's face, so you can tell who she's really pining for. The reason that she wants to get out of the house, of course, is because her dad's having over a house guest, and she doesn't want to get stuck having dinner and sitting around talking with this person that she doesn't have any interest in. So as she goes down the stairs and peeks into the study, she sees her parents are collapsed, and then when she gets up close to her father, she sees 2 bite marks on the side of his neck, and a voice from behind her says, you must be Veronica. And we see this vampire entity grab her by the throat, pick her up, mouth covered in blood, and this is where Smallwood really shines. The character designs are fantastic. I really love the style of Veronica. I love the way that they're interpreting the vampire notion for these characters. They kind of pale out, they get very odd undulations on their face, the ears go pointed, and they always seem relatively slick back and composed, but it's just very visceral and almost feral in their nature. So that's where Greg Smallwood really shines in terms of the art. The composition, the actual character designs, and then the way the coloring and everything's brought out is just fantastic. Of course, as he bites down on Veronica's neck, she takes a pen from the nearby desk and just stabs him in the throat as she gets loose enough so that she can run away. And she bolts out into the courtyard, hops into the BMW, and hits the engine start button, and it's a great short-paced scene. You can tell that the pacing's quick as it moves through the panels, and the vampire guest is already at the edge of the road. He's standing in the middle of the driveway. She smokes him with the car with a giant wham and leaves him for dead. Of course, the person that's in front of her, that's on the opposite side of the road, who's texting while driving, Reggie, that's terrible for you. They just smash head on, with Veronica going straight out of the windshield and smashing onto the ground, Reggie ending up in the airbag. She should be completely obliterated from this kind of accident and getting tossed from the car, and as she kind of creeps over to see if Reggie's okay, she looks the blood on his neck, her eyes go red, and she seems to think that he smells so good, so delicious. And she runs from the scene, not sure exactly what's happening. The glass she pulls from her skin starts to heal almost immediately. She wonders what's happening to her. And of course, Reggie's there, and he's hit the airbag, and he's now awake. He's no longer incapacitated, and the person that comes to save him isn't Veronica. It's the man that turned her into a vampire. And that's what we're going to pick up with issue number 2. Here's the thing. I really enjoyed this book because that's what this book is. This comic is enjoyable. It's not necessarily sophisticated. You can tell that there's some ulterior motives. You can tell that there's some machinations, some stuff going on behind the scenes, and there's a lot of places for it to go. But if you're looking for a campy, almost like B-movie type horror comic book using some of your favorite characters from the Archie universe, this is going to be a really fantastic show of it. The writing isn't necessarily sophisticated. The storytelling inside the panels is very good. It's not going to hide things from you in the dialogue that you're going to have to kind of analyze over time. It's going to set things up for you, and then it's going to give you a payoff. So Vampironica, while it might not necessarily be for everybody, I think that it's a really good foray into a very simple and entertaining version of a horror comic book. And from Archie, it feels like a relatively unique offering. I'm excited to see where Archie's going. Archie Horror is a very cool imprint, and I'm tempted to do an entire video on what's happened to Archie since they relaunched it in 2015. But I want to know what you guys think too. This is a very different video from what I'm normally up to, so I want you to comment down below and see if it's something that you want me to dive into a little bit more or not, or what your opinions are on Vampironica. So hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.